Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Roy's Tie-Dye Sci-Fi Corner, episode number 249, Conan the Barbarian, the classic 1982 sorcerer and sorcery film starring Arnold Schwarzenegger. And with me tonight to discuss this classic from our youth is my friend, my co-host, the one and only Mr. Ross Amico.
Crom. Hear me, Crom. Yeah. Hi, Roy.
Hey, Ross. How you doing?
Doing all right. Still a little washed out from the camera here. I messed with the saturation setting, but not enough, apparently. Yeah, this is the new computer, so we'll try to have it right next week.
Nah, it's all good, Ross.
Yeah.
Consider it an upgrade.
Yeah.
How am I doing? I'm doing all right. It's
okay.
It's what, the 17th of January. We've actually passed the threshold of the middle of the month already. I feel like we were just celebrating New Year's and the holidays.
It's all over, Roy.
It's all downhill from here.
All downhill from here. Yeah. You think I'm joking?
Oh, I know you're not joking. That's what makes it funny. Hey, Matt. I see Matt's out there. He says, hey, guys, it's time for the monkey doodle do.
Hey, Matt.
Welcome to the show, Matt. Good to see you out there. And yeah, so I'm hoping we're broadcasting on Facebook. Actually, we are broadcasting.
We're just broadcasting to Matt.
We're broadcasting directly to Matt.
It's a command performance for Matt. In Philadelphia.
He's got a front row seat in Philadelphia. Thanks. Yeah, exactly. No, we're actually broadcasting on Facebook and YouTube. I'm actually monitoring on the iPhones with both connections, so we're good. We had some technical difficulties the last time. So anyway, with that there, just wanted to welcome everyone. Yeah, crazy week with certain things. And one thing I just wanted to bring up, especially if folks who are Twin Peak fans, David Lynch passing this week. Boy, that was kind of a hit.
Unexpected, I thought, but Matt had tipped me off not too long ago that he was, he had emphysema and he was, having problems breathing. But I was still in shock when I saw yesterday that he had died.
Yeah.
He was 78, but still, it's
only 20 years. That's only 20 years away, Ross.
Yeah. Well, hopefully I won't have emphysema. I think we're going to fly into the sun or something before that anyway.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Metaphorically speaking.
Yeah. Anyway, on a brighter note, I don't see she's out there, but today is, or actually the 15th, I want to say happy birthday to Eva. So if Eva joins us later on, you can wish her a happy birthday. So it was her birthday.
I will.
Yeah. And I see Jeff Rubel is in the house. He's joining us from Utah. Welcome, Jeff.
Evening.
And Matt saying, very sad, Lynch had the hair of someone who should have lived till 100.
If that's so, I'm on my way out.
Yeah, there we go. Hey, and May is joining us from Canada. Welcome, May. Good to see you out there.
May.
And she's saying, hi, everybody. There we go. So with that said, I know I'm kind of doing the delay because I'm just waiting for some people to catch up getting in here. I neglected to do my usual due diligence that I usually do, but I was kind of scrambling this evening. Unlike Ross, I've had actually, like I was saying, some tech issues, but I think we got them overcome. So
yeah,
Ross.
Well,
okay.
Yeah. No, I mean, we were originally going to do this show, I think back in, was it November?
We were.
It got put down a lot of stuff happened. We had scheduling conflicts. We had family issues. And it was just, one thing after another. So just getting around to Conan. Yeah.
It basically was the whole gambit. So we kind of just pushed this off to the side and we were waiting for a proper moment. I think Ross wanted to do this for Christmas, but he wasn't available. So
I wanted to do it for Thanksgiving.
Thanksgiving. That's what it was.
Yeah. Cause I wanted to do the prayer to Crom. Over Thanksgiving dinner. Yeah.
The best part of it is, Ross, you worry about offending our viewers with certain things, but this isn't one of them.
Well, I count on people having a sense of humor, Not like my host.
I was just going to say, unlike myself, is what you're saying. Oh, well. So, with that said, on a lighter note, besides all the things we just covered before, did you have a good week?
Oh, my goodness. I guess. I mean, it wasn't a bad week, I suppose. It was fine. I mean, the computer has consumed so much of my life over the last couple of weeks. Last weekend was kind of a marathon trying to get the computer, up to speed. I still have files out at a clean room right now, trying to retrieve computer files off of my old drive. It's gone around to several people now, and all the tech guys are like, "It's on there, it's on there." They all think they can get it. Nobody can get it. It's like, I can see it, but they can't get it.
It's like the ending of Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, where Indy's going for it. He's going for the cup, and he's like, I got it, Dad. I got it. I'm
One after another, they're tumbling into the unseen depths below, into the mist.
As long as you don't hear the words, Ross, let it go.
that went on in my head from the moment they disappeared. But it's a little bit painful because I say I can let this go. It's only like 5 years of work, whatever. But then I realized, my vegetarian chili recipe is on there.
Uh-oh.
I had to reconstruct it from memory. Yeah.
That wouldn't be cool.
No. So
Hey, I want to say hi to Micah. Micah's out there joining us, and Carrie's out there. So Micah and Carrie, they're both joining us from Canada. Welcome to the show. And I'm actually pulling the Roy maneuver where you have not typed, but I can see you out there. Uh-oh.
Yeah. People love that, Roy.
I know you did, Ross.
Outing them when all they do is like peek in. I see you. Don't you,
Ross? Pekin was a restaurant in Phillipsburg back in the late 80s.
The Pekin, yeah. That's back when Phillipsburg was Phillipsburg.
Exactly.
Now, what is it? It's just all like little box joints up and down Route 22 there. It's depressing.
The more things change, the more things change.
Yeah. They tore down the bowling alley too.
Oh, please. That was painful. You talk about a lot of painful painful memories, but also pleasant memories. But just the fact that historical icon is now, a quick check.
Yeah, it's a quick check. Anyway, yeah. So
no offense to Quick Check, they are one of our sponsors. So.
Yeah. I think it's become evident by now we're not going to. It's one of our sponsors. I think it's become evident by now we're not going to talk about this movie tonight.
Sure we are. I'm just waiting for the numbers are going up, Ross. We are at 1,200 individuals out there, so we are doing good.
Really? All right. Don't let them see you sweat, Roy.
They just did. It went down to 1,000.
I think it was Warren Lanes wiped them out. Yeah. So anyway, you got to put yourself in the mindset of when this was out. Okay, 1982. Do you remember, what your life was like in 82? Do you remember this summer?
But nobody wants to hear my summer of 82. Not to be confused with the summer of 62.
Yeah, or 42.
Or 42.
Yeah,
did I tell you that I actually met Jennifer O'Neill?
No.
I met Jennifer O'Neill at Chiller. Very, very nice.
Wow. Yeah. Not in a beach house, though.
No, I just met her at the hotel.
Yeah.
Oh, where the convention was being held.
Oh, okay. All right. I'm hearing Michel Legrand's music right now. But anyway, the 82. All right. The summer blockbuster. Okay. Yep. This summer used to be a time when the studios would dump stuff. Nobody wants to go to the movies in the summer, they assume. So they dump all their failures in the summer. And then Jaws comes out, and this is a huge hit in 75. And they go, oh, that's pretty good. We made all this money on Jaws. But it wasn't really until Star Wars in '77 that they said, wait a minute, maybe there's something to this. So just like with the Star Wars action figures, where it took a while for them to catch up to the momentum, get up to speed with this phenomenon of the summer blockbuster of Star Wars and so forth. It took a while for the studios to really start revving up the thrill machine in the late '80s, but by '82, I mean, it was in full swing.
Yeah.
And I mean, when I look back, I think '82 was like the summer of fun. It may not be my favorite movies. Well, some of them are actually, but it was one of those things where every weekend there were at least 2 movies, 3 movies coming out in the multiplexes or at your neighborhood, Faded Movie Palace or what have you. And it was just a glorious time to be young, to be a teenager and seeing these things.
Back in the day, during that time frame, although I have to say I don't remember multiplexes being in our neighborhood, but I mean, we had Eric's 1 and 2, and then later on we upgraded to 3 and 4.
That was our version of the multiplex with a double. Yeah,
but it was the time where you would go to the movies, or we would go to the movies, and we were fortunate to be able to go to the movies almost every other week, especially during the summer. I mean, everything was cranking, and we had our small group of close-knit friends that would go, and my allowance was being spent on the movies because it was, or part of it anyway, because it was just a fun thing to do. Now you got to remember, this is back in the day when movies were and you got to adjust for inflation,
right?
But I think it was $1. I think it was $1.75 for a matinee.
Matinees, yeah, dirt
yeah.
cheap.
It was,
And I used to, my parents the family would always go to the movies on Friday night. It was a tradition. So I'd be like the Millennium Falcon on the back of the Star Destroyer, just riding on my parents in the movie theater, getting the free movie. And then Saturday would be the time I go with my friends. I go with Matt or you or Joe or Jim. But that summer, I mean, all right, you had Conan the Barbarian on May 14th. I wrote some of these down, and some of these may not resonate, but it really, I think it fills out the time. Dead Men Don't Wear Plaid, which was a Steve Martin comedy, that incorporated all the footage from classic movies, which I enjoyed. May 21st, The Road Warrior is May 21st, North American release, or at least the United States release. Rocky 3 was May 28th.
Rocky 3 was May 28th of 1982.
82, yeah.
Yeah, you know why? Because I remember going on a date. It was my first date with a former, well, I don't know. I guess I would have liked to have confirmed that it was a girlfriend status, but we probably weren't at that status. But it was somebody that I dated, and our first date in 82 was seeing Rocky 3.
Nice romantic evening with Clubber Lang.
Clubber Lang.
He played Cupid. Mr. T pities the fool.
Oh boy.
Oh, well, there you go. That's a good first date movie. Rocky 3. Poltergeist, June 4th.
And Star Trek,
June 4th. Also,
June
Star
4th.
Trek 2, Wrath of Khan, rather.
I was seeing Wrath of Khan, and everybody else was going to see Poltergeist.
Poltergeist, right. Yeah. I saw Wrath of Khan the next day. I think I saw Poltergeist the first night and then Wrath of Khan on Saturday.
I remember that Friday being at the locker by my lockers and in high school, and I was just so psyched and getting my stuff ready and couldn't wait to get out of school because that night I was going to go see Star Trek 2, The Wrath of Khan, and I actually went with my mom to go see that. Yeah,
and I was pumped because everybody's making a big fuss over Poltergeist, but I knew E.T. was coming the next week.
That's right, E.T.
And all the critics were saying, well, hang tight because this is going to be the movie. And I'm like, oh, E.T. And I liked Poltergeist. I enjoyed it. It was a nice thrill ride, but it wasn't really a haunted house movie. It wasn't like a scary movie. It was just a thrill ride kind of thing. I mean, it had scary things, but it was like you knew nobody was gonna. It wasn't gonna be. I mean, maybe the scene in front of the mirror or what have you, where the guy starts peeling his face or what have you. It's a little gruesome, but it's like we're not in Spielberg territory anymore. But the rest of it was pretty Spielberg. But yet, E.T. the next week.
The other film that comes to mind before, and I'm curious where it's on your list,
Yeah.
because it was another attached date in that curriculum of, I think it was probably maybe the second or the third. I wish I could remember the month. I'm going to think it was maybe July. Tron came out.
Tron came out in July 9th, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. Blade Runner on June 25th.
Wow.
The Thing, John Carpenter's The Thing on June 25th. The Secret of Nim on July 2nd.
Wow.
Tron, the one you mentioned, and The Beastmaster on August 20th.
The Beastmaster. That's Mark Singer, not Rip Torn. What's his name?
Yeah, it was Rip Torn, wasn't it?
Torn. He said in an interview that was probably the meanest role that he had ever done.
Yeah, and, other than his life.
Nice. He was actually. Do you remember him being in Coma when we covered Coma?
Yes,
he was one of the doctors, and he looked nothing. I mean, totally different appearance. I mean, he was like mob
and of course, Matt's out there right now trying to find his file of the film where he gets in the fight with Norman Mailer and hits him in the head with a hammer.
Speaking of Matt, he said 1982, the year that both John Milius and Oliver Stone learned the meaning of the words. Oh, jeez.
That's harsh. But can you imagine those two working together? I mean, we can we can get to that. But
hold that thought, because I want to come back to that. Shari's out there. Like I said, she's on her way to work. She said, "Hey guys, was driving to work and listening. I've just got to go to Easton, PA. I've never seen this movie. It's very violent. Saw it last night. I graduated from college in '82."
Yeah, I had the same impression of it. It was a little violent for me.
Yeah.
I always say on here I was a sensitive kid, and I got nervous when I would see Excalibur because I knew there were going to be some arm loppings and that sort of thing. and I have to say, having gone back to it, it's still pretty violent, but it's unnecessarily so. I think. But it's not the worst. I mean, compared to what we've seen since.
Right.
But anyway, and other movies that were out, and I have no idea the dates, and some of these will resonate, some won't. Werner Herzog's Fitzcarraldo, which was like a 19th Street Theater movie, like it was a
art house.
German art house film. Yeah. Yep. Annie, the musical, John Huston's Annie,
sure,
based on the comic strip. Gregory's Girl, which was a sleeper hit, Scottish film. Midsummer Night's Sex Comedy, the Woody Allen movie. World According to Garp, you remember that?
Yes, I saw that at the 25th Street Shopping Center at the Budco.
Yeah,
I thought that movie, for whatever reason, though, I thought that came out in '81, but it was '82, though.
'82, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think. I may have seen that with, I won't say the last name, but I think I may have seen that with Peggy.
Ah, okay.
I think I saw that with Peggy, just as friends, but yeah.
Yeah, I remember going to see that with. Matt may have been there, but I remember I was there with all those skate punks from Easton High, and I hate to say it, but I think we pretty much ruined that movie for the whole theater. And I'm not that kind of. I would hate me.
But you were a sensitive guy.
I hate when people like ruin movies, but I liked the movie. But Officer and Gentleman was out. Night Shift, which was. Michael Keaton's breakout.
Henry Winkler directed that.
Ron Howard directed.
Ron Howard directed it.
Right. Yes. So they were just both Ron Howard and Michael Keaton were still feeling their way at that point.
Right.
Pink Floyd, The Wall.
Yes.
And Fast.
Just want to say hi to Jack. Go ahead. Sorry, Ross.
Fast Times at Ridgemont High.
That was in '82. And
how did I get to see? Yeah, that's the thing. The 25th Street Shopping Center was so arbitrary because I could just walk in and see that movie, and yet I try to go see First Blood or whatever, and I get like stonewalled. Depended on who was on the box office.
Right. Well, I was just going to say, depending on who was on monitor duty. I mean, yeah.
And First Blood was not that year, but I'm just saying by comparison. But I'll tell you, my favorite sleeper hit of the year. That actually jumped the gun on Conan was The Sword and the Sorcerer. I don't know if you remember this movie. It had Lee Horsley in it.
Oh, Jesus. I remember the movie being out. I didn't
Yeah.
see it, and I did not remember that he was in it.
Yeah, it's a sword and sorcerer film, and it's pretty terrible, but I love it. It's like one of my guilty pleasures.
Was he the star of the movie?
He was the star of the movie. Richard Lynch, who was the bad guy in every 70s.
Oh my God, Richard Lynch, of course.
Yeah,
and if you're a big Battlestar Galactica 1980 fan,
okay, yeah.
he was in that too.
He was the villain. The guy who played Bull on Night Court was in it.
Richard Mole.
Richard Mole. and George Maharis from
George
West Side Story.
Wow.
Yeah. So what a cast, right? And the film, the score. That's the other thing. We'll talk about the scores later on, but it was a great score for that movie. Terrible film. I love it. Sword and the Sorcerer.
There you go.
All right. So back to, but I just remember when Conan was coming out, it wasn't like I was a big Conan the Barbarian fan. It's like I was never like that genre. But I remember distinctly that I was reading Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep because I was anticipating Blade Runner, and I wanted to read the Philip K. Dick book before it came out.
Yep.
And I remember on Top 40 radio, it's such a weird time. Do you remember WEEX?
Of course.
Did you listen? Yeah, it was just kind of like they played whatever was, with an. It was like they played Top 40 stuff, but they would play things like the theme from Chariots of Fire and then Ebony and Ivory would be on, and they just like grab whatever's sitting there on the.
It was a nice mix. It was a good mix. It was a pleasant mix.
Yeah, and it's like that era will never come again.
No, it won't. Carrie said, "Don't forget Dark Crystal."
Was Dark Crystal 82 also? It could very well be, because that's very much of that era.
Yeah,
it is 82 Dark Crystal. Wow.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks, Carrie.
Thank you for that. When was that out? I did see that in the theater.
Yeah, it came out in
82.
82.
And what was the release date? December.
Yeah, looks like December 17th. It was right before Christmas.
I love that film score for the Dark Crystal. Trevor Jones. I saw that they're just. I think it's Entrada. It's either Entrada or La La Land. I think it's Entrada though. Just came out with a 3 CD release of it where they have the full score is heard in the film and then the soundtrack release.
Nice.
I know. I mean, I do have an extended release here somewhere. You know how they do it. every few years they keep putting, it's like, we found here's a little track of here's a little Skeksis track that we didn't have on the original.
I love La La Land. I will definitely give them a plug on the show. They are, I mean, obviously I always say to Ross about this. I don't know if folks out there have this, but you probably can't see it because of the glare.
The complete Star Trek, still in the shrink wrap.
Yeah, keeping it safe.
Yeah, I didn't. That's out of print. I didn't get a hold of it, so I've been buying. They reissued. They're releasing them now as individual volumes, but they said they're not going to put some of the stuff on the individual things that are on that box because of the licensing issues and things. The music will all be on there, but I think that there's some problems with some of the stuff that was released onto maybe the GMP Crescendo stuff won't be put on the individual disc. I don't know, whatever. I'm digressing. Do your own research.
Yeah.
Buyer beware.
That 6 set though that they have out, the individual set is really cool though, and I think some of that is actually sold out now too, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, some of the earlier volumes. I only don't have the only one I don't have now is the last volume. I should get that before it does sell out.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I'll be on eBay going, I can't pay.
No, they're really good, and that music is never gets old. Hey, I just want to say hi to Jason Munn. Jason is out there checking us out. Welcome to the show, Jason. Hope you're enjoying it. And let's see. Oh my God, Matt. I'm not even going to post that.
Matt was there for so much of that. Matt and I went to see everything.
It was that time. And the crazy thing is, it's now, I mean, we've passed the 40-year mark for that. Now it's like, you're talking 43 years ago, that 1982.
I know, it's crazy.
It's just not right. But
it was such a rich time though for growing up in my development, and it's like if I die I want to go to 1982. That for me would be heaven. If I went back and it was just like, Matt and me going to the movies on a Saturday and then walking around the cemetery.
It's crazy though how again each decade has its own like tone to it. Because the 90s was not like the 80s. It was like it was just so different.
Yeah. So, well, even by the later 80s, things were
starting
different.
To phase, yeah.
Because I think things kind of peaked in 82. I mean, it continued. And I always like to say, or I don't know if I like to say it, but I say it kind of ended for me in 85 with Back to the Future. That was like the last peak for me. But when I look at the summer movies, they did continue through the 80s, that kind of season.
They did. It's just that it was kind of winding down, though. It wasn't as intense. I mean, you still had your hits, and you still had that aura, but it was shifting, though. It was definitely a shift.
Yeah. Well, the thing was, it used to be Memorial Day was the demarcation, and then they would inch up, earlier and earlier. They'd get a leap on the season, and then it just kind of almost lapsed the year. Now that they've released these things year round. So that there was no more summer. They release Marvel movies whenever they want now.
Yeah. Yeah, it was almost like, and this is something that we definitely want to, I definitely want to cover on the show. We touched upon it a little bit. I know we haven't really even gotten to Conan yet, but this is a part of Conan because this is like the backstory. This is the back history of Conan. So we just haven't gotten into the crux of the film, but this is the buildup, folks. This is we're leading into it. But you remember back in the day when TV Guide was TV Guide. I know TV Guide is still around, but it's not TV Guide that we grew up with. And in September, the first week, usually it was first or second, sometimes even third, depending upon when it was going to take place. It was a huge event where the new season, Sherry's saying plot. When the new television season was going to be premiering, and you would get that TV Guide fall preview guide. And there was a special section in that television guide, that TV guide, that was devoted to all the new shows that were coming out for the season. And they would go, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, throughout the entire week. And that was a huge deal for us as kids growing up, probably more in the 70s and I'll say 80s, but I still enjoyed it, but probably started fading out probably towards the early 80s. Saturday morning television, that was the bomb, especially in the 70s, as when we were growing up. And they would release, there was actually a show that they would do the night before those shows would be premiering, and they would actually talk about them. And the TV Guide would even give little synopses about what was coming out. And it was just like something you looked forward to on Saturdays. It was like, oh my God, if you missed your Saturday morning cartoons or your Saturday mornings, it was like, wow. It's like, it was almost like, I remember having a bad dream that I slept through Saturday morning and missed the Saturday morning cartoons and the live action shows. But that goes to show you, how nerdy I was back in the day. So there you go.
Really? You're setting the scene again, I guess.
My point is, though, I really want to go back and cover on upcoming episodes some of those live action shows. I actually had Ryan on and we touched upon a few of them, and we did kind of a collaborative effort where we just kind of like discussed, maybe like three shows, and we kind of combined it together. But I would love to digress into some of those live action shows and go back and discuss them. I don't know. Now, let me ask you really quickly, and hold your thought that you were going to say. Were you a live action Saturday morning fan of those shows or not?
I watched them. I wasn't really I wasn't so into the live action ones. I'd watch it. It's just like whatever came on you're watching. But it's funny though, because by the time Conan came out in 82, a lot of these things, my peak for Saturday morning TV, when you actually look at the dates when these things were on, that was like 10 years before we were watching these things. A lot of them. It's earlier than you think.
Yeah.
I know they continued into our high school years, but
the 60s, the 70s.
Yeah, the late 60s, early 70s, a lot of that stuff. The
well,
night school. Like
Scooby
Puff-
Dooby Doo. I remember seeing the you'd see the copyright date, and I would see the copyright date for Scooby Doo. It would say 1969, and I was like, whoa, these have been around for a while. And then even like with the Flintstones, and then the Jetsons.
Well, those were really early.
Yeah,
but like Puff and Stuff and Lidsville and all these things were pretty early.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and then of course it spilled over into the McDonald's commercials. They were all like the Sid and Marty Krofft things. If you don't know the original Hamburglar, then
right,
we're not on the same wavelength because they cleaned him up.
That's for you, Ross.
It's a deal, Matt. It's a deal, Matt.
Or he said, I live for Saturday morning cartoons.
Yeah.
So,
but Conan.
Yes.
When was the first time you saw this thing? Tell me about your experience with Conan the Barbarian.
You see, I was like not a big fan of the fantasy sorcery type films. Mm-hmm. I was more the sci-fi, the adventure, the dramas. So these type of movies, I was not running to the movie theater to see it in the theater. Mm-hmm. I saw this movie when it was on cable, which would have been probably in the 80s, and I did not see it from beginning to end. It was just one of those films that I saw parts of it, but not the whole thing. And I knew Arnold Schwarzenegger from it. Now, one thing I will say is I'm going to just jump real quick. You and I, we used to collect these. Excuse me. Hang on. Let me just try to bring it up here. Starlog magazine. I always like to give Starlog a shout.
And that's another thing that's just so much a part of our early 80s existence. Yeah.
Before the internet, and I always say this on the show especially when we're talking about like shows of the 70s and the 80s and even some 60s stuff, Starlog magazine was our go-to. I mean, there was no internet, and if you were lucky, if a publication was maybe covering some of the stuff that we loved, but Starlog was a bi-monthly subscription that would come out. And I remember this being listed and reading the articles about it and knowing that Arnold Schwarzenegger was in the film and not knowing who he was, and then reading that he was a bodybuilder and all of that went along with it. But as far as like getting into the movie at that specific time, no, it wasn't until, seeing parts of it later on, and then obviously watching it for this show and then watching the whole thing through. And I'm like, okay, now it's all together.
Yeah, and on the cover there, you've got The Thing, and you've got Cat People.
Yep.
With Malcolm McDowell and Nastasia Kinski.
Yeah.
And Who Goes There, which was the original story that was adapted into The Thing from Another World. And I remember when Starlog ran that because you couldn't find it anywhere.
Yeah.
At that time, so that's pretty cool. That's the second part of it. But I knew who Schwarzenegger was already, but I just knew him as a bodybuilder.
Right.
This is the movie that kind of made him a superstar. And it's funny because all the things that people made fun of about Schwarzenegger, all the things that are potentially, detrimental or a drawback, his build, his accent, he talks funny, he's a big guy. These are the things that made him, a superstar.
Yeah.
And he knew it. He had a great sense of humor, or has a great sense of humor about himself.
Yeah.
And he just totally played it. He had the charisma, and he just rode that through into the 90s. He was a Last Action Hero and all that. I liked him in the early films though. Not so much Conan the Barbarian, but when he started doing like Commando and all those goofy, comparatively low budget action movies, when they got bigger and bigger and bigger, I was not so interested.
Did you see? I know we've covered it, but did you see Terminator in the movie theater? I forget.
I did. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. See, I saw Terminator 2. I actually remember going to see Terminator 2.
I lied. I lied, Sully. Yeah. No. I saw it on cable. Actually, I saw Terminator 2 in the theater. I didn't see the first Terminator.
Okay. The first one I didn't see in the theater, but then what happened was I saw the second one in the theater, and I actually remember I went to a matinee by myself to go see it, and enjoyed it very much. And I thought they made him a good guy because that was the direction he was going. I'm just backtracking a little bit. Jeff Rubel said, and along with the cartoon shows, don't forget those wonderful educational cartoon commercials. I'm just a bill. Yes, I'm only a bill. Yes, absolutely.
And it's time for timer.
Schoolhouse Rock. I have the episodes on. Yeah, that was great references, Jeff and Corey.
The hankering for a hunk of cheese. Yeah.
Hankering.
Yeah.
I always like that word.
Yeah.
Yeah. But again, yeah, you're absolutely right, though. His earlier, and then he became like he was like a superstar. I mean,
yeah, he was a punchline. He was making films like the villain with Kirk Douglas and things like that. But Conan really lifted him. Actually, it was Terminator's what really put him up there. But Conan
started it.
Yeah, yeah. So,
and then there was a sequel to this movie. We didn't even get to this movie yet.
there was a sequel, and it was even goofier than. But it was the thing was, it was intentionally goofy. Like this one is unintentionally goofy, right. which kind of has its own pleasures. But yeah, you would think that the sequel is directed by Richard Fleischer, who did all these. He did the Vikings. I mean, he did a lot of classic. Films from the 50s and 60s, and yeah, it's a goofy little film, and they obviously cut the budget for Conan the Destroyer. It wasn't as big budget as Conan the Barbarian. There was supposed to be a third film, and I keep waiting for it. It's it's going to be terrible, but it's they were going to do King Conan at a point, and it just fell apart. It was close to the time that they had finished Conan the Destroyer. There was just all kinds of stuff that went on. Dino De Laurentiis had Schwarzenegger under contract to do these films, and he didn't want to.
Supposed to be a 4-picture deal, I think.
Yeah, 5, I think, at a point. But
oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, but it might have been 4. But it's obviously it never came to pass. And now for years, where are we now? It's like 40 years later, more than 40 years later, they're still talking about making this movie. But I don't know. They better hurry up because Schwarzenegger's getting a little long in the tooth there. I mean, it's fine because he's King Conan. He gets to sit on that right. throne like he does at the end of the movie where you see him like that. But I don't know. They'll ruin it. They'll make it all CG and too violent.
Well, now they did and I didn't even realize this is where I fall off. I mean, I caught some stuff in the 90s, and sometimes Sherry and I will see films like, in the 2000s, but then of course, well, the 2000s, 2000s, my God, I should say in the 2000 and teens and then into the 20s. But then what happened was, COVID hit, and that kind of just like really just, things kind of fell off. And then, you could stream stuff online, but it's better to go in the movie theater. But it's just a different atmosphere now. Not to go on about COVID, but the point is, that's 5 years ago. So going back into that realm, the movies that have been coming out are just like so much different than what used to come out. And with that said, I didn't even realize that they had done almost like a reboot of Conan. Were you aware?
Oh, yeah.
I had no clue. No clue.
Yeah, it was like back in 2011.
Yeah, and it was a while ago. It's not like it was like yesterday or a couple of years ago. It was, to your point, it was a good 13 years ago.
Yeah, I remember when it was out. I didn't go see it. It's the guy who hit big with Game of Thrones and Aquaman, Jason Momoa.
Okay.
Yeah. So I thought, well, how bad could it be? But I've watched some clips from it, and it's just not going to be my kind of movie.
No.
I think it's going to kind of be like the Clash of the Titans remake. Maybe even a little more CG and all that. But anyway, it's. So you were talking about, this is kind of a sharp right turn. You were talking about TV Guide. When they went to make this movie, the artist that they really used as inspiration was Frank Frazetta, because he had done all the covers for the Conan books and everything for a certain paperback editions of it. Yeah, and he had the museum. He was fairly local.
He's right up the road from us. I mean, he's up in East Stroudsburg.
Yeah, and he had his museum there. Yeah. And his daughter and granddaughter still do a web series. I don't know if you've ever seen it, Frazetta Girls. It's on YouTube, and they highlight different aspects of his artwork and career. But Frazetta was a big artist for, among other things, TV Guide. You know, he did all the Battlestar Galactica things, and I'm sure you saved all of those. I know I did for a little bit. But
I actually had for the longest time the Battlestar Galactica. It was a picture cover of it was with Lauren Green, Dirk Benedict, and Richard Hatch. It was a pic. It wasn't a picture. It was like an artist's, like a drawing that was on the cover when Battlestar premiered back in September of '78. Yeah, I saved a lot of that stuff. And they, in the Starlog magazines too, you could even see it where it has Frazetta's paintings of the colonial warriors, like looking like Conan, so to speak.
Yeah, everything he did looked like Conan. It's true. It's true. Everybody's way too defined and muscular.
Yeah.
Even the women, they're all really buff. Everybody's jacked.
Yeah.
And I don't even know if Frazetta's conception of Conan is really Robert Howard's Conan, but it's like what we imagine when we think of Conan the Barbarian. Right. Frazetta covers. You got to have like seeing Arnold as Conan the Barbarian. I thought this guy's going to be too slow and lumbering, but they really worked with him to kind of get him up to speed so that he would be kind of built and yet nimble as Arnold's going to be.
I mean, he went through an intense training, not only for working out, but also even for his vocal training in order to get the dialect correct. Because originally he was going to do the opening narration, but then I guess they went with Mako for that, I believe.
Oh, right. See, this is the thing. We were going to do the movie in November. This is how bad it is now. So I rewatched it in November, and I was going to watch it again today, but I ran out of time, so I wasn't able to watch it again. So my memory is like, oh, it's 2 months old. I can't remember. But yeah, I think Mako does do unless it was Von Sydow, but I think it was.
No, I think it was Mako who did the narration.
Yeah.
But yeah, because they wanted Arnold to do it, but it's just that, again, with his accent at the time, it was just too much. But
yeah. And the whole movie is too much.
But. Well, this is true. But they really, they worked very hard at it. I mean, it wasn't like they there was a lot of effort that was put in.
Yeah, it wasn't like they just kind of dashed it off and it was a B movie. I mean, this was like a big budget studio film, Dino De Laurentiis backed movie. And I told you what my stepfather said. Whenever you see Dino De Laurentiis' name on something, it's going to stink. which is unfair because De Laurentiis,
it's a stereotype, and I know what he's talking about because I kind of used to feel that way myself. It's like De Laurentiis, but no, I mean I love Flash Gordon. I mean
and he produced all the Fellini films, and the guy has done classics also, but he did his share of trash, sure. But
he's done a lot of good stuff, and he's done a lot of fun stuff.
Well, my stepfather always used to say, if it's an all-star cast, it's going to stink, because, all those pictures where they get like, 10, 15 quasi-washed up stars with Henry Fonda, in the 70s, and Charlton Heston, and how it is, Richard Widmark, all these guys that were big stars, they still were big stars, but you know how it is.
Yeah.
You got to make Midway,
1975.
And Sense Around.
Yeah, my goodness. Yeah. It was again the 70s, another era. Well, look at Marlon Brando, top billing Superman. He's in 12 minutes of the movie, and he made like 10 millions doing that. Yeah. And supposedly, I'll say supposedly, but I've read it many, many, many times. He had, let's say, assistance with his lines that, in the form of, cue cards.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, he was doing that with The Godfather.
Yeah.
Yeah, so. He didn't like to memorize his lines. So everybody have to walk around with the cards taped below the sight line of the camera, on their chests and stuff, and on their backs. Yeah.
So, yeah.
You can work like that when you're a genius.
I guess so.
But talk about geniuses. Well, first, before we get into John Milius, I do want to we went to see this. My stepfather, so, we used to finish dinner on a Monday night or whatever, and he'd go, "Who wants to go see Conan?" or whatever. We go, "Oh, I'll go see Conan." He would just drop something like that sometimes because he want to go to the movies on a Monday. So we'd hurry up and clean the dishes and get out to the Budco or whatever, which was the case, here at the 25th Street Shopping Center. And we were like, it was us, maybe a few stray people, and in the back there was a row of like college kids, and it was just the funniest thing to see this with them because they were shouting at the screen, and sometimes that's "Hi, Randy."
Hey,
sometimes it's annoying, but this time it was very, very funny. It was like a Rocky Horror experience with Conan the Barbarian.
Were they cheering him on?
No, they were making some pretty witty. Well, they weren't not cheering him on. They were making funny remarks and they were cracking each other up. It's like watching the Uncle Floyd show.
Floyd, oh my god!
But anyway, so when I saw it, I thought, all right, well, it was 2-star, 2.5-star movie or something. It was like, it was a Monday night and it was an agreeable way to pass an evening, I suppose. But I didn't think it was a great movie. I went back and watched it the other night. This is like one of these things. It's like the Three Stooges. When I was a kid, it's like I thought the Three Stooges were not funny. It's like, they're okay. They're amusing. Go Brando. But then I go back and watch them in my 30s, and I think they're hilarious. So it's like the deterioration of the brain. Now I think Conan's a pretty good movie. I went back and watched it again. I said, you know what? I'm enjoying this. I really enjoyed watching it again for the first time all the way through. You know why? Because I kind of viewed it from the perspective of, it reminded me, we're so far away from it now that I can kind of see the relation to the 1950s and 60s kind of epic films and barbarian movies, the Peplum pictures with Hercules and all that.
Right.
There's a scene earlier in the film where I think I'm thinking of the right movie. It was 2 months ago, where he's there with his father, sitting with the mountains and everything.
Yep.
It was just so 1950s.
Yeah.
And I just said, I'm really into this. So, all right, I enjoyed Conan this time. I enjoyed the music. I always enjoyed the music. I thought the music was great. We'll talk about that in a bit. I enjoyed the whole crazy theft of the jewel from that. They had that sequence in the middle of the movie where they go into the keep.
Yep.
With Sandal Bergman. Yeah, so that was all fun. But
it's interesting too. You were talking about that scene with the father was portrayed by William Smith, who has done a lot. I mean, sadly, so many actors from this movie have passed. But again, this is this movie was shot in 1981, so you're talking about a 44-year-old movie. But he did a lot of different types of films and a lot of episodic television. If you're a Hawaii Five-0 fan from back in the day, he was actually in the last season of Hawaii Five-0. He was actually in one of the final episodes of Batman with Adam West and Burt Ward, playing like a muscle man type guy. But here he's playing the father, and a lot of times he would be a villain too. He was also in what was it? Any Which Way You Can with Clint Eastwood, if you remember that.
Sure.
What was the other movie? Red Dawn was another movie that he had appeared in.
It's another John Milius movie.
Oh, yeah, there you go. So it's but he was definitely a working actor. No qualms about that. But that scene that you're talking about, where he's with young Conan with that background, it really is reflective of those earlier movies from like the 50s or the 60s. It just has that effect to it that is present, and they did a really good job with that. Reminded
me of the Technicolor epics of the earlier or fantasy movies from the earlier era. Yeah. And it's funny to, here we are 40 plus years past that. It's funny to think that Robert E. Howard was writing these stories so early. He died in 1936.
Right.
So he was writing these things in the 20s and 30s, these these barbarian stories and historical adventures. He didn't write just that. He wrote westerns. He wrote, Middle Age adventures set in the Middle Ages or in the set at the time of the Roman Empire. He had all kinds of. He was a extraordinarily prolific writer, a genius in his way. He was kind of like the Hemingway of Texas, because he also lived a lot of this stuff. He was a boxer. He worked as on bodybuilding for a while. They had it was like closing days of the Wild West, so there were Indian raids, and there were there was all kinds of unrest, and oil fields were starting to spring up, so there was crime and all kinds of sensational stuff happening, and he put all this into his stories. And it's just remarkable to think that we think the barbarian character, even though it's set in an ancient world, is a more recent invention, but the fact that he conceived these things during the golden age of the pulps, back in the 20s and 30s, and he was so popular. He became so popular with Conan. He had a hard time hitting big with some of his stories, but this was the one that really people latched onto. And as soon as they would put a Conan story in there, they knew they would sell out of Weird Tales or whatever. They became.
I didn't realize that the Conan stories were that. Had been established like that. I had no clue at that time.
It's so weird, it's like, what? But Edgar Rice Burroughs was from so far back also.
Tarzan, yeah.
And as far as reading these things, I'm a huge Edgar Rice Burroughs guy. I love his stuff. And I don't know what it is, but when I read Robert Howard, he has legions of fans. Everybody loves him. It's a totally different experience for me. And I thought in preparation for the show tonight, I would sit down and read one of the longer Conan stories. And it's the same thing. I just have a hard time. It's a different, he develops the world so well. You can tell he really thinks about it. And there's a logic to the world's laid out and everything like that. Unlike Edgar Rice Burroughs, who just kind of like, for convenience, he'll just put stuff in there. It's like there's no logic at all to Edgar Rice Burroughs. It's just like, oh, we need this in the adventure. Let's bring it in. I can't say that I'm a big Conan fan, but I read Robert Howard's Solomon Kane stories, which is about some austere Puritan who goes around like wrestling spirits and stuff. And I think those are great. They're a lot of fun. But they're all written in the 20s and 30s.
Which 100 years ago. Ouch.
Yeah. He died at 30. He was very close to his mother, and his father was a doctor. The parents were not getting along. I don't even know if I guess the father was still living there. I don't know. But anyway, when the mother fell into a coma and it was apparent she wasn't going to make it, he killed himself.
Oh, jeez.
He was only 30 years old.
Oh, God.
But he had cranked out so much. He had left so much fiction. But he's a talented guy, sensitive guy, apparently. But it's a shame because who knows, that's he could have written for another 40 years.
Yeah, that's tragic.
Yeah. And he struck up a correspondence with H.P. Lovecraft, so they were friendly.
Okay. Yeah.
Lovecraft admired him immensely, as did all those Weird Tales guys. I once submitted to Weird Tales, when I was sending out stories back in the day.
Did you really?
It was not the same staff. They call Weird Tales the magazine that'll never die or whatever, the magazine that never dies, because every time it goes out of business, somebody else picks it up. But it was Philadelphia based at that time. And I figured, I'll try to crack into Weird Tales. But I was still writing in that style of H.P. Lovecraft and Robert Howard. I was writing like the stuff in the 20s and 30s. So they wrote back like, we can't publish this.
At least you got a response.
Oh yeah, I got a personal response, but it's just like, it was not what they were publishing at the time. I've always been 50 years out of date.
Yeah, I know how that is.
There you go. That's the scene. Yeah,
yep,
exactly.
Yep.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's just so well conveyed. The clouds moving in the background and the mountains.
Yeah.
The peak. Yeah. I figured that's what you're referring to. But
there was a movie about Robert Howard called The Whole Wide World, and it had Vincent D'Onofrio plays Robert E. Howard.
oh, okay.
And Renee Zellweger is in it too. She plays a school teacher with which he has kind of a relationship with. It's not a bad movie. It's worth seeing.
He's a very interesting actor. He seems very he's very spontaneous. He's very passionate, but he seems like he can be very volatile. But he's very good though. I mean, I remember watching him on Law and Order.
Oh, okay.
That's the first time I came across him as an actor.
Yeah, he's done a lot of stuff.
Yeah, he definitely has.
But that's a movie about Robert Howard.
Yeah. Hey, I want to say hi to Pete. Pete Foltz is out there. Welcome,
hey, Pete.
Good to see you out there, Pete. Hope you're enjoying the show.
Yeah, we're meandering tonight a little bit. At least we're talking about Conan a little bit now. But
we're easing our way into it.
John Milius, the director of this film, okay? I'm sure there are a lot of people that know a lot about Milius out there, but Milius is like some deranged genius.
There he is.
he went to USC with George Lucas and all these other film luminaries. So they're all friends. They all know John Milius. It's actually Milius.
Whoops.
That's okay. That's okay. But he's got some very interesting quirks. John Milius. He grew up in St. Louis, I think, and his father, I think, was a shoe salesman. But when he retired, they moved to California, and surfing became his passion. So he was like this. He said, "Surfing is my religion." He was a great one for surfing. But then at the same time, he got into all these martial arts and guns and he was very much into warfare, and he actually tried to get into the Vietnam War. They kicked him out. He tried to join the Marines, and he had a slight asthma affliction, and he just never lived that down. So he said that he had to always put it into his movies or his fiction or what have you, because he really wanted to test himself in battle. And he describes him. I think he described himself as or somebody described him as a little right of Attila the Hun. He's like really, 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 really right wing. Like so far right wing that people that are right wing are scared of him, kind of.
Oh wow.
He's like total. He says he's an anarchist. He just believes in no government at all. But everybody loves him. If you knew him as a person. And you worked with him, he's just this larger than life figure. I'm sure it was infuriating too, but he's such a colorful personality that people like George Lucas and I guess he worked a lot with Randall Kleiser, the guy who did Grease, and Paul Verhoeven. All these people that worked with him kind of found him endearing.
I didn't realize that he did the Dirty Harry films.
Yeah, the script. He was because he was a voracious reader on top of everything. So he was excellent at just churning out prose, and he could do it in different styles. So yeah, he was a script doctor. He did N-word screenplays for Dirty Harry, and he did Jeremiah Johnson. Just a lot of stuff. Apocalypse Now. Yeah. So Francis Ford Coppola is part of that circle. Also. Then he became a director. He did Big Wednesday was a surfer movie, which I still have not seen. That was his movie about surfing. Yeah, The Wind of the Lion I love. That's with Sean Connery as the Berber chieftain. And Brian Keith plays Teddy Roosevelt. It's kind of their war of wills as Connery, the Razzoli, the chieftain, kidnaps Candice Bergen's character, which is interesting because it actually has a connection to Trenton. I'm not too far from Trenton.
Right.
The what's her name? What's her name? I don't know, I can't think of it. Anyway, but there's a street named for the family here in Trenton, and it's it's based on a real incident, this international incident, except instead of it being Candace Bergen, it was actually the son of some industrialist got kidnapped. And in fact, we're coming up, I think, on the 100th anniversary of the incident.
Oh, geez.
So, in any case, I digress. He did. You mentioned it earlier. Red Dawn.
Red Dawn, yes.
Another one of his big movies that he directed. He co-created Rome, which was shown on HBO here in the U.S. Let's see. He was a surfer and a juvenile delinquent, voracious reader. He was into martial arts, especially the Eastern stuff. He was into a lot of the Japanese stuff. Loved Moby Dick and On the Road. Those were his two favorite books. When he rewrote Evel Knievel, the movie, he got paid $1,000 a day to work on that script.
Wow.
Pound that out. Describes himself as a Zen anarchist. And it's funny because his friends kind of parodied him in their movies. George Lucas modeled the character of John Milner in American Graffiti, Paul LeMat, on Milius, in the sense that Milius was just kind of like this, washed up surfer who didn't. He was a lot more than that. Obviously, he made a success of himself, but I guess he was just kind of like drifting around for a while, and he kind of modeled that character on him. But more memorably and more aptly, the character of Walter in The Big Lebowski, the John Goodman character in The Big Lebowski, is supposedly very close to what Milius like a really.
Could you imagine being a part of that group, like that circle? It's almost like when we were like all friends, I'm not saying friends, but when we were friends back in our high school days, or even later on the college years or whatever, and everybody's just like hanging out. And then here you've got your Scorsese, you've got your Spielberg, you've got your Lucas, and there, you know what I mean, and you got your Milios. It's that kind of forum, really.
Yeah. It was it's like they're all part of that same circle. And it's kind of funny though that he kind of teamed up with that he didn't write Conan, but it was Oliver Stone that did the screenplay for this one. Oliver Stone is such a known for his left-wing conspiracy. So just to imagine like John Milius and Oliver Stone in the same room. I know. But you know how it is. You go far enough one way, you kind of come around the other way.
Right.
I've found that to be the case anyway. So I guess political views are like a globe. Far enough.
Spanning the globe to bring you the constant variety of sports.
Somewhere. Yeah.
Oh boy.
That's funny. Oliver Stone, of course.
You've
seen his movies, but as a director, but he's been a screenwriter as well.
He's done a lot of stuff as well too.
Yeah,
I didn't do a slide for him, but yeah, he was definitely a part of this project. No questions asked. You mentioned that surfing movie, and that the other actor that's in this movie, Gary Lopez, but he wasn't even really an actor; he was a surfer.
He was one of
Milius in the movie.
One of Milius' surfer buddies. Yeah, so he gives him hey, you can be in my Conan movie. Yeah.
I love it. It's great.
Oh, no.
But I think they actually dubbed him too. They dubbed him with another actor.
Oh, I didn't know that. Yeah, he plays Conan's sidekick.
Yeah. Now here's a question for you, and spoiler alert, folks. This is a 43-year-old movie, so spoilers are out. If you don't want to hear it, I apologize. Cover your ears. But did you think Conan was going to lose the girl?
Did I think he was going to lose the girl?
Yeah.
In that, did I think that she was going to meet the fate that she met?
Yes.
Were
you surprised?
It was. I didn't really think about it at the time. Was I surprised? I don't know.
Okay.
It's hard to say. I just kind of went with it. Maybe I was surprised. I wasn't shocked, I don't think, but I don't know.
Conan always has the witch.
Well, that's the thing. He's always wenching and everything anyway. So
I was like, oh my God.
I totally forgot about that scene until I rewatched it. But that's kind of like what would happen in a Robert Howard story.
It's like you're watching it and all of a sudden,
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh shoot.
Yeah.
Chicka bow wow.
Totally unnecessary scene.
Yeah. It was just like, oh boy.
But anyway. I liked it.
Yeah. It was Conan.
But I think they did that. And I think Milius wanted to have that whole Valkyrie kind of where she comes back as in the Valkyrie outfit.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it was one of the reasons for casting her. She was another one that came from they all came from the middle from the heartland. All these people, Milius and Sandal Bergman and Basil Palladores, who did the music. They were all, either Kansas City, St. Louis. But she was a dancer.
Yeah.
Sandal Bergman. And I wonder if I saw her because my parents were big into going to musicals.
She was in the first line.
Right. They were big into Broadway shows and things. Yeah. And I don't know if they probably saw Chorus Line before she was in it because she wasn't part of the original cast, apparently. Like people were already starting to leave. Right. But I wonder if we saw her she was in Dancin', which was a Bob Fosse review.
Yeah.
Which I was bored stiff by because I was a kid. And it's like I didn't want to see it just dancing. But she was one of the original cast of that, and I may have seen her in that and not known at the time because I didn't know who she was.
She stood stands 6 feet tall too. There she is.
Yeah. So she's rather statuesque.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and that is Sandal Bergman.
Yeah, Sandal Bergman. Yeah, it's a very Swedish name.
Yeah, very.
He was born in the U.S., but you know how it is. The frontier, the pioneers were all, a lot of them were Scandinavian, and they'd settle out there.
Right. Speaking of the witch, there is Cassandra Gavola.
Okay.
And then
I didn't get that far in my research. Yeah. So do we know what else she's done?
She actually, believe it or not, she appeared on the cover of Jefferson's Starship back in the day, one of their albums, Spitfire.
There you go.
She was a dragon princess. Interesting. Night Shift. She was in Night Shift. She did High Road to China.
Yeah, I remember that. With Tom Selleck and Bess Armstrong.
Wow. Good job, Ross. Yeah.
It took a second.
Yeah. I would have pulled that out.
Yeah.
Yeah, she was pretty young when she did this movie. She was 22 years old, if you can believe that.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, the other thing was since Sandal Bergman was so tall, they couldn't get a stunt person. She had to do her own stunts because they couldn't have anybody else. They couldn't find another 6-foot stunt woman.
Yeah. Yeah, very tall.
Yeah.
Yeah, and mostly her and Darnie did their own stunts. Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Yeah. So,
and the guy in the middle was a former football player, defensive end with the Oakland Raiders. Believe it or not, Ben Davidson. Okay. I mean, I was surprised. He looked like very big, but he was 6'8".
Wow.
So there you go.
And where's James Earl Jones?
There he is.
There he is.
There he is. There's the man of the hour.
But he was better than I remember too. I mean, he's just so ridiculous with the hair and everything.
Right.
That's all I remembered. But watching the film, I thought he did a decent job with this.
He did.
Very good. Yeah.
And this is post Star Wars.
Yes, and pre Lion King.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
But he was already the most famous guy in the movie, though. I mean, you had Max von Sydow, who was famous in the Bergman movies and things. But as far as U.S. movie that people would recognize, I mean, James Earl Jones was the biggest name in the cast easily.
Yeah.
At that point, in fact, I think he was a last minute casting decision because he was doing
He was doing Broadway, wasn't he?
Yeah. So, but he said he'd do it. Max von Sydow did it because he said his son was a big Conan fan. I thought it was just because he would do anything for money.
Nice.
I think he does or did. Yeah. King Osric.
Yeah, there he is. On the right.
Yeah, he was fun too.
And then on the left is William Smith, Conan's father.
Okay. A lot of beards in this movie.
Yep. Hey, I want to say hi to Martin. Martin is out there. Thanks for joining us, Martin. Yes, we did, Matt. We were talking about William Smith before, actually. But that's okay.
And Richard Lynch.
Yeah.
But he wasn't in this movie.
No, he wasn't.
Where's Mako?
Oh, you know what?
There's no slot in Mako?
There
we go. There, of course, there's a slot in Mako.
There he is. I thought that was an appropriate picture of him.
Yeah. There's Akira the Wizard.
Yeah. He was really good.
Wizard of the Dunes.
He's done so much stuff. Oh, my goodness. You know what? He's been gone for a while, too. He passed the day after my birthday in 2006. I can't believe he's been gone for 18 years.
It seemed like he was around forever. He was another actor that was in everything. His birth name was Makoto Iwamatsu.
That's all on you. I'm not going to try that.
He wisely shortened it to Mako. He realized that people had a hard time pronouncing his name in the U.S. So, and therefore he was in a lot of movies. Yeah.
He trained at the Pasadena Playhouse, so that says a lot right there too. His training. He was nominated for an Academy Award, Golden Globe Award.
Oh, was it the Sand Pebbles? What was that? What was he in?
It was the Sand Pebbles.
Yeah. So
yeah, he's done definitely. Those were the days. Those were heavy hitters in this. A lot of heavy hitters in this film.
Yeah, surprisingly. I mean, they really didn't skimp.
No,
they really spent money on this movie. So that's pretty good. It's the biggest budget Barbarian movie probably, up until, who knows? I'm sure that Jason Momoa CGI fest was probably more expensive, but back in the day, this was the biggest budget Barbarian movie. Certainly, the ones that came after didn't have this price tag.
Right.
The Conan the Destroyer, Red Sonja. What was the other big one that was out around that time? Well, certainly not Beastmaster.
Sword and the Sorcerer.
Sword and the Sorcerer. Yeah, that certainly didn't have the price tag that this one had. But there was another one that was part of that Arnold Schwarzenegger kind of era, big budget Barbarian movie. Yeah, whatever. But yeah, I mean, these kind of movies were pretty popular in the 60s, but this was kind of a rebirth for our generation of these. It was kind of a mix of the fantasy movie and the peplum movie, like the Steve Reeves as Hercules kind of thing.
Right.
That was big in the 60s, late 50s and early 60s.
And I am going to do a Space 1999 connection here with the special effects supervisor was Nick Alder. And he worked on Space 1999 with Brian Johnson. He was part of, they were the special effects guys. And Nick Alder actually worked on Alien as well, too. So, he had a really, really extensive career because looking over and just the way they were doing some of the effects with the animals, like with the, for example, with the birds that was being done. I guess
you mean the vultures that were on him?
Vultures, yeah. They had a remote controlled electronic camera mounted on a motorized lightweight crane that they utilized, which was similar to Dragon Slayer. I think maybe that was the movie you were thinking of maybe before too. I don't know if you mentioned Dragon Slayer.
No, Dragon Slayer is a different. Yeah,
but
go ahead. You finish your thought.
No, but anyway, just in regards to the special effects, I mean, the effects that they did with the huge snake. I mean, at one point we were talking about James Earl Jones and how he transforms into the snake.
Yeah.
That was kind of
no CG. Oh, and I love the heavy cauldrons and stuff that they're throwing down the steps.
no CG there.
Total throwback to in the Italian films, with the Steve Reeves and that sort of thing. They were always like bending iron around each other and throwing big boulders, styrofoam boulders at each other. First time he saw a decapitation. Yep.
Yeah.
And it's talking about the vultures. Yet Conan bites the one that's trying to chew on him, bites him to death. Yeah, those college kids were having a good time with that. With that screening. Yeah, it was funny. Oh, I forgot to mention that the script for the third Conan movie that was going to be the King Conan movie was kind of reworked for a film called Kull the Conqueror, which was another Robert Howard creation. And Kevin Sorbo was in that. That was in 1997.
Okay.
I'm sure it had no budget, and I'm pretty willing to bet that it probably wasn't very good.
Kevin Sorbo played Hercules, I believe.
Yeah, on TV.
On television. Sherry just commented, and she was commenting about this. I forgot. Great point. I'm bringing this up. She said the loon sounds crack me up. Great bird, but probably wouldn't be there where they were. Lots of laughs. Yeah. And it was constant. I mean, they great bird sound effect, but
I love stuff like that about the movies, because the director or the sound guy says, "Oh, this would be great here," but then there's always somebody in the audience that knows.
That would be Sherry.
Yeah. 90% of the audience has no idea, and then you have the birder. It's like, what are the loons doing there?
What? How?
Not their native soil.
Oh, brother. I'm not even going to put that up, Matt. Anyway.
They should have had road runners to fight the snake.
They really should have. Oh, yeah. What did you think of him? Yeah, he's shooting snake arrows, and then it's like, what the heck was that?
Yeah, that was fun. Yeah. I don't know why they did the whole thing with the snake cult like that, because in the Conan stories, he's not like that. He's more of a kind of a skull, right? But he doesn't have the snake cult. There's another character, I think, that has the snake attributes. Has a kind of a snake cult, but you'd have to talk to a real Robert Howard guy to get into the. There was a guy I told you about this fantasy and science fiction class I had in high school with Mr. Conahan, where we would watch movies and read books, and then we'd have to write papers on them like they were classics or whatever. So it was an English class, but there was a kid in there where every single day, this guy had a different barbarian book. I didn't even know there were so many. Because at Walden Books, they'd have the shelf with the some of those things on there.
I remember that.
But I'd look at the covers every day as kids read them. Every day it was a different one. He would read one a day. So
he kept himself entertained.
Yeah, at least we know he was literate, but it was amazing that he read so many of those. It's kind of like people with romance novels.
Yeah, right. The novel that just keeps on giving.
Only with barbarians.
Only with barbarians.
Yeah.
And the music.
Basil Polidorus.
I had never heard of him, Ross.
Oh, his music, though, because if you're a fan of Hunt for Red October or RoboCop or I don't know, he did so many big movies. He's another guy that kind of died before his time. And he's another guy from the Midwest. He too was born in Kansas City, of Greek descent. So he was very much steeped in Greek orthodoxy. He said it was one of the big inspirations for him to become a composer. That and the big epic film scores of Miklos Rozsa.
Oh, okay.
There's two big inspirations. So he studied music at USC, and that's how he fell in with John Milius and got to know everybody out there in the new Hollywood. And the films that he worked on Blue Lagoon was one before, but Conan is magnum opus. I mean, this thing. That's the thing about the 80s. I always say the 80s were a second golden age. Like the golden age of Hollywood was 1939, they say, or not the golden age, the golden year. The golden age of 30s and 40s, but the golden year was 1939.
Well, Wizard of Oz, Gone with the Wind was 39.
Yeah. And I think like 82 was another golden year. The movies were nowhere near as good, but the film scores were phenomenal. And we just haven't reached that height of so many good, I mean, all through the 80s, so many good film scores for bad movies. It's amazing. And Basil Polidorus' score for this, I think, is one of the top 10 scores of the 80s, which is saying something because there's a lot of competition, but this is like a thrilling, really major epic film score.
You want me to freak you out? 1939 to 1982, 43 years. 1982 to 2015, 43 years.
Yeah. 2015 or 25?
Yeah. Oh, wait a minute. No. 2025. I'm sorry. 1982 to 2025 is 43 years.
Yeah.
Just like 1939 to 1982 is 43 years.
Yeah. See, I do that stuff all the time, but I missed that one.
Yeah.
So, thanks, Roy.
You're welcome.
I just rewatched The Wizard of Oz on New Year's Day. So
now he tells me.
And I know I couldn't impress anybody by making that comparison. He did.
Sherry commented and said the music at the very beginning of this movie reminded me of the Omen music.
Because of the chorus. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what they all draw from is Alexander Nevsky by Prokofiev. The music that's played while they do it several times in the movie, but where Conan's setting up for the big battle and he's got all the swords and the bamboo stuck in the, the ground and all that, and the guys are coming up with the crazy helmets and everything. Well, those helmets, for one thing, are lifted from Alexander Nevsky too. But there's a big battle on the ice in that film, and the music that they play leading up to that is pretty much what Polidorus and every other film composer seems to reference. James Horner does it all the time. Yeah, it's just a landmark film score. And being film geeks at USC, they all knew it. You know, they were all paying homage in the images and in the music to that kind of thing. He did Red Dawn, Iron Eagle, RoboCop, Hunt for Red October, Free Willy, Starship Troopers, and a quirky western called Quigley Down Under. And the reason I say it's quirky is because it's set in Australia. Okay. Tom Selleck's in it, and Alan Rickman plays the villain. Oh. It's a pretty classic setup for a western. I mean, it's got all the cliches and tropes that you would associate with the Old West, but they transfer it to Down Under. But the Basil Polidorus score is kind of cool because it's got the banjo in it. It's worth seeing. I saw it for the first time a couple of years ago. And he did For the Love of the Game, which had Kevin Costner in it. I didn't realize Sam Raimi directed it, the guy who did Evil Dead.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a baseball movie. But he died of lung cancer in 2006. So he was only 61.
Wow, he was young.
Yeah, and toward the end of his life, he would tour with this, they had a big Conan concert where he would go around and just do the whole score to Conan the Barbarian and sell out, these big venues in Europe. Everybody was big Conan nuts for the music.
Matt, 1929, the true golden age of movies, nearly 100 movies that year. You've got to love the talkies.
Yeah. Yeah, the whole classic film score thing, unfortunately, was, after that. Not unfortunately. I mean, 1929, there was a lot of stuff going on, but, the whole Max Steiner, Eric Korngold, all those guys didn't come in until the 30s, really. Yeah.
Max Steiner. Didn't he do Star Trek?
That's Fred Steiner.
Fred Steiner, I'm thinking of.
No relation, by the way.
No?
Yeah. But Fred Steiner did make a recording of Max Steiner's King Kong. Okay. But they're not related.
They're not related, yeah. Yeah, Fred Steiner.
Oh, here's something though. I can't believe I almost didn't mention this. Basil Polidorus appeared in multiple episodes of Star Trek: The Original Series as an extra.
Did he really?
Yeah, and I can't remember how I wound up seeing him. Maybe I saw stills from him. Maybe Google it and see if you can come up with any stills of Basil Polidorus in Star Trek.
That is really cool.
Because when I was watching the original series, I did see him pop up in an episode.
Oh my God, that's hysterical.
Yeah, so there's your Star Trek connection.
Wow.
All roads, Roy.
All roads. They do, Ross. It's a fact. You've heard it.
You go to California and you wind up surfing and you're on the original series of Star Trek.
That's hysterical.
Yeah. Good times. Good times. And of course, the prayer to Crom is my favorite. Where Conan gets all philosophical and he finds religion for like 2 seconds. Crom, I have never prayed to you before. I have no tongue for it. No one, not even you, will remember if we were good men or bad, why we fought or why we died. All that matters is that two stood against many. That's what's important. Valor pleases you, Crom. So grant me one request. Grant me revenge. And if you do not listen, then to hell with you.
Wow.
This is what I wanted to say at Thanksgiving. You know, I wanted to do the Crom prayer.
And you have it down so well, Ross.
I know. Well, I didn't read it beforehand. And then we all have turkey.
And then you have the turkey.
Or vulture, as the case may be.
Mm.
You dined from our crucifixes, or they crucify them. It was on a tree, though. It wasn't a cross, was it?
No, it was a tree.
Odin on Yggdrasil, the Norse god. Oh, did you find it? There you go.
He was a Klingon, and that's in the first episode with the Klingons. That is the Omega Glory, or not the Errand of Mercy, first season, and then he's a red shirt security guard in Obsession with the Cloud Vampire, and evidently he's done other. Wow, that's pretty cool. Yes, all roads lead to Star Trek with the musical composer. I love it.
Yeah, didn't write any music for Star Trek, but he got to be in a bunch of episodes.
Yeah, that's pretty impressive. Oh, and then he was also a soldier in whatchamacallit, in Patterns of Force, which was a second season episode.
Okay.
Sherry's saying, did you use a cue card for that?
Yeah. There you go.
I think she's asking you, Ross.
Well, I just jotted it down, so I didn't have a chance. I can't even read my writing.
Excuse me.
Crom.
That's
one thing that's accurate, though. In the Robert Howard stories, Conan's always crying out the Crom. By Crom, as an oath.
Hey, I want to say hi to Linda. She's joining us from Canada, Western Canada. And she's saying, I can't remember if I saw this at the theater, but I think it's more likely the early days of videotape. Didn't care for it at all. I saw it again many years later and liked it. That's
exactly the same reaction I had. Exactly the same. Yeah.
She says, and especially like the soundtrack.
Yeah. The soundtrack is amazing.
The music is, it really is.
But the same thing with the movie, I thought it was kind of tepid, at first. And now I watch it and it's like, hey, that's pretty good.
Oh, that's funny.
But it's, I'm losing brain cells. It's the same thing where, like I said, the Three Stooges were amusing, but never really funny when I was a kid. I put it on, I just laugh.
I'm not a Stooges fan. But I do respect all the work and everything that they did with what they did. And it's timing.
You respect the Stooges, Roy.
I do respect the Stooges. It's not easy work. They just don't make me. I'm not amused. I'm not amused. Number one.
I will not ask you to go to the Stoogium with me in Bucks County.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll just have to go with my newspaper editor. We're going to the Stoogium. I confess.
When are you going?
It's unclear. All I know is I have a seat in the car.
There you go.
He's going to go with two or three other guys.
How far is that from where we're at? Well, we're from
it's probably about a half hour from where I am, but
okay.
It's not too far.
Gotcha.
Yeah, you can Google it.
Yeah.
Stoogium.
Okay.
Never been there.
How long has it been there?
Before COVID, I don't know for how long, but I knew I couldn't go in 2020.
Right.
So, Larry Fine was born in Philly.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah, as was everybody else.
There you go.
John Barrymore, who Matt referenced earlier. Yeah, he was born in Philly. He's buried there.
And there you go.
Yeah.
Well,
we're going to go to prison visiting his grave.
All roads lead to the Three Stooges, Ross.
There you go. Well, one of the best New Year's Eves I ever spent was watching the Stooge-a-thon. Because I always hated New Year's Eve. And it was on TBS or something. And they started at 3 o'clock in the afternoon on New Year's Eve. And that was like the most painless New Year's Eve I ever... now I don't give a damn. But I still cared back when I was in my 30s. This is the best New Year's ever. Just kept it on all night.
Oh, God.
Now I have them all on DVD, and I never watch them. So
there you go. There's your answer, folks. Linda's saying, I didn't like Stooges either, and I didn't know any kids that did, but the adults did. Lots of laughs. But, of course, the adults of that time grew up with the silent movies, and I attribute it to that. Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, I don't know what it is. I mean, I've always been a Marx Brothers fan, and I think they're a whole other level. And Matt's reference to the Monkey Doodle Doo at the beginning was from a Marx Brothers movie.
Okay.
From their first movie, actually, The Coconuts. Irving Berlin wrote that.
No, I remember you watching the Marx Brothers. I mean, you were way into the Marx Brothers back in the early 80s. I remember going over to your house, and I think you even had like a Marx Brothers party or something.
Of course I did. I was crazy. How many other people did you know that were so into the actors of or movies of the early 30s back then?
And that wasn't that long ago back then. Hey, Dennis. Dennis is joining us from Canada as well. All of our Canadian friends are out there tonight.
But they're a whole other level, the Marx Brothers. I confess.
Yeah.
But it's just something about people slapping each other silly that cracked me up. Plus, there's shtick when you watch them one after another. There's recurring bits, and you see what's coming. And
well, I mean, even the same thing with Lucy, like I Love Lucy. When I was a kid, I loved I Love Lucy. I thought that was hysterical. I wasn't into Here's Lucy, but I loved I Love Lucy. It was just that kind of zaniness and that type of humor. The comedy of that era. I mean, it just really worked. I don't think you could do a show like that today. I don't think the audience would appreciate it.
Well, the more you watch, when you go back to the Stooges era, the more you watch of the different comedians doing this stuff, the more you see that there's a common denominator, and that stuff all goes back to vaudeville and vaudeville and burlesque, because Abbott and Costello have nearly an identical routine. That whole thing with Niagara Falls, Slowly I Turn.
Right.
Abbott and Costello do something totally I think it's Bagel Street. Every time somebody says Bagel Street, somebody loses it and beats the hell out of somebody.
It's like when you say camaraderie on this show.
Slowly I turn, Ronnie.
Drink.
You were here. I crumble your straw hat. Your boater. Yeah.
Oh shoot.
Yeah. Conan the Barbarian and the Three Stooges. Yeah.
On the left, LMAO.
The Stooge-a-thon, yes. I think they still did it. It was watered down. It wound up on Spike TV or something, and it was not the same as when I saw it back in the 90s. Yeah.
Spike TV.
The man ruined the Stooges. Like everything else. Yeah.
Oh boy. So with that said, I don't know. I definitely enjoyed the movie, but I can see why I didn't want to see it back in the day. You know what I mean? Because when
It
I
ain't
was,
Lost in Space.
it's not Lost in Space. It's
No.
definitely not Lost in Space.
No. And I don't know that I would recommend it to just anybody. I know I enjoyed it. Before rewatching it, I didn't really like it that much. You know, be fun to get drunk and watch it and make fun of it. But this time I genuinely enjoyed it.
Yeah, I thought, I mean, some of the scenes that were in there, I was like, okay. Kind of took me by surprise, but yeah. There you go.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely. And I have a feeling that the sequel is probably not as up to par as this one.
It's goofy, the sequel, on purpose though. It's played for laughs, I think.
Right. So but I'm glad we covered it because it gave me the opportunity to see it. Like I said, because I hadn't seen it. So
I think they had the was it the courage of their convictions? Is that what they say? Yeah, like I think they made this with conviction. I don't think they phoned it in. In other words, I think that they really wanted to make a Conan movie.
right.
I think they gave it their all. It's what it is. Nothing about it was half-assed.
We're going to be getting back to that, Matt. So stay tuned.
That's the sequel.
That's the next sequel. Week. That'll be 249A.
Yeah. Well.
Anyway, we're gonna wind it down. I'm gonna go to the shout outs, and I'm gonna put this out there first, just in case anybody drops off for the shout outs. But just whoops. Speaking of dropping off, hold on. I went the wrong way. There we go. Mark your calendars. This Sunday, which is going to be 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, my very special guest is going to be Adam Nimoy, who is the son of Leonard Nimoy, and he's going to be joining me, and we are going to be talking about his latest book. He's actually doing a tour right now, and it is called The Most Human: Reconciling with My Father, Leonard Nimoy. So very much looking forward to having him on the show and discussing the book, also talking about some things Trek. But if you haven't had the opportunity and if you like to read, definitely pick up a copy. It is available on Amazon. Adam is touring the country right now and going to different areas to promote the book, and I'm very very happy that he wants to be on the show and accepted my invitation to be on the show, which I want to thank Edwin Thrower for, as well as Bonnie Moss for helping to make that happen. So anyway, again, Adam Nimoy will be this Sunday, January 19th at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And that's, again, be talking about his book. And I want to give a shout out to my friend Bill Scrotto at Country Gate Theater. And they are Country Gate players in Belvedere, New Jersey. And they are going to be doing an up-and-coming murder mystery that Bill wrote, and it will be premiering on February 8th. It will be at the Belvedere Manor. Tickets are still available. You can call, and the number is 610-248-7285. It is adult-only show. Must be 21 to go. And for information about upcoming productions for Country Gate, you can visit the website, which is www.countrygate.org, or you can also visit Bill's website, which is www.billscorrado.com. And I want to give a shout out to Mike and Mary Beth for their show, Sci-Fi Distilled. They are on Wednesday nights. They, I believe, are going to be on this coming Wednesday, January 22nd, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You will have to check out to see what they will be doing. They have not posted it as of yet, so stay tuned for that. And also, jumping ahead to Captain Phil's Planet. Captain Phil's schedule is on every other Thursday, alternating Thursdays from 4 to 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And he's also on Friday nights from 9 p.m. to 11:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And you can tune in by going to, on the internet, WUSB 90.1 FM, Stony Brook, New York. Also, I want to give a shout out to my friend Jeffrey Morris for the Eagle Obsession, and that will be premiering this year in 2025. The film is done. He's working on the editing. For informational updates regarding the film, you can go to www.eagledocumentary.com. And also a shout out to the Star Trek Original Series set tour. Captain Kirk, the William Shatner, will be back, and that will be June 27th and 28th, which is a Friday and Saturday. For information, visit the website for www.startrektour.com. Also, it is going to be the 10th anniversary of Trek Condoroga, and that I believe will be taking place sometime in August. So definitely check out the website. But William Shatner will be appearing first. Also, a shout out to Martha for Studio One Thrift, which showcases stylish clothing for all seasons, all year round. You can get styling updates, but you just need to register. And the website is www.studioonethrift.com. Excuse me. And also, Warren Friedrich and myself are doing a weekly podcast for Space 1999, and is entitled This Episode. And actually, we will be back this Sunday with the latest update. Now, the episode we just covered last week was Voyager's Return. This week, we will be discussing episode 13, which is Collision Course. So stay tuned for that. And Nancy will be our special special guest co-host, joining us to talk about that. And also want to give a shout out to Lou, my friend Lou, for his latest venture that he's done. It is called Found in Space, and it is available for streaming on YouTube. So check that out. And then also a shout out for my son Ryan, who has an online coaching service. And you can check that out at www.runbyryan.com. You can also register for free. And then also there are different tier levels if you want to go to the next level for that. And Ross, if you can let everybody know what you've got coming on this weekend.
Well, those are the three shows I've got right now. Picture Perfect's on right now. It's in the last few minutes. It's all dystopian movies. So Fahrenheit 451, WALL-E, AI, artificial intelligence, and Metropolis.
Oh.
So those are all music from those films tonight on Picture Perfect. Sweetness and Light, 11 o'clock tomorrow morning. That's my light music show. Since it's winter in the summer in the southern hemisphere, I'm doing all Latin American music tomorrow morning. Music from Brazil and Argentina, Chile, and Paraguay. That's tomorrow morning at 11 o'clock Eastern time. The Lost Chord tomorrow night at 7 o'clock. That's the unusual and neglected classical music. I'm doing some works by the Danish composer Leif Kaiser, who was a composer, a teacher, and also an ordained priest until he gave it all up and got married. And anyway, I'm doing one of his symphonies and some other stuff. So that program's called Kaiser Rolls, and that's tomorrow night at the Lost Chord at 7 o'clock. So that's all unusual classical stuff on KWAX. The URL is there, kwax.uoregon.edu, and I write teasers for them on my Facebook page. Tomorrow morning I'll preview Sweetness and Light and the Lost Chord at Classic Ross Amico, if you're interested. And I hope you're following the page.
Yes. Make sure to follow.
Follow that page. Thank you.
Thanks, Ross.
Thanks.
And just as a reminder to everybody, I know I don't. Let me see here. I said it before, but in case you're just coming on, again this Sunday, and it's going to be a very special episode too, because it is going to be the show's 250th episode, which is kind of crazy to think that the show is, give or take one or two episodes either way. But the fact that we are actually at that number, it'll be.
Wait, you did the teaser episode just a couple days ago. This is the 250th.
Yeah, the teaser episode didn't count.
All right, I'm just kidding. Go ahead.
Well, the teaser episode counted as a buffer to get us to the 250. So
right.
we actually are at the 250. Yeah. No.
All right. Continue. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. Throw my momentum off, Ross. I sense a disturbance in the force.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, but 250th episode. So what it's going to be is actually that'll be this Sunday. And again, Adam Nimoy, Leonard Nimoy's son, will be joining me on the show. But in regards to the show itself, yeah, I mean, April 3rd will be the anniversary where it will actually be 5 years that the premiere date of this taking place. So it's creeping up. So we got some cool stuff planned. More guests that are going to be coming on, so which is kind of cool. And again, very excited about Adam Nimoy. And in regards to that, I just some comments. Thanks, Matt. We appreciate. I'm glad you enjoyed the endless amusements.
I'm glad you thought so.
Sherry enjoyed it too. So awesome.
Oh.
And yeah, so Ross and I will be back next Friday if everything goes well. We have not discussed what we're going to discuss yet, so we'll figure that out. And then just mark your calendars too, because that Sunday, which is going to be the 26th, Jeffrey Morris will be joining me on the show to talk about the Eagle Obsession. So he'll be returning, and then that will be next Sunday, but I'll also advertise more about that when we get closer. So I think we caught up with everything. I also see that Eva's out there joining us. Welcome, Eva. Yeah, and in case you missed it, Eva, we wished you a happy birthday for earlier in the week. So happy birthday. And thank you again. And any last words, Ross?
I think we should have jumped out of a cake. That's what I think. Should have it all ready to go.
There you go. Thanks, Dennis. Appreciate that.
Yeah. Well, there we go.
Yeah.
Oh, well, that's right. We were supposed to strip to the waist and pose at the end of this. I forgot.
What in the wide world of sports are you talking about?
Weren't we supposed to do like the Arnold thing at the end?
Oh, that's right. You mean the...
Yeah. I guess not.
I guess not too. Oh well, it's always fun, and it's good way to close out a Friday night, Ross. So appreciate everybody being out there and joining us. And as Ross said, if you have not subscribed to the show, if you have not liked the show's page either on Facebook or YouTube, please do so. And if you can please subscribe on YouTube and like on Facebook and follow on Facebook, it would be very much appreciated. There's no cost associated with that, and it will just definitely help the numbers to get the word out about the show. And please, if you really enjoy it, please feel free to share the show and let everybody know about the show. So just trying to get the numbers to increase. I need to do more marketing, which I don't generally do. So with that said, I just gave my marketing pitch for January 17th, 2025.
And I'll keep trying to warm up the image here on the new computer because it's still all pallid. Better than last week, but still not there.
Yeah. That's good. I got the lighting going on here. It's kind of the futuristic lighting.
Yeah, it's a lot warmer than my frame.
It's all good.
Yeah.
But anyway, everyone, take care. Have a wonderful weekend. Hope to see you on Sunday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And as always, live long and prosper.
Have a good weekend.
Have a good weekend.